It's 5:30. We're going to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand? And we will salute our flags. Charles Alderson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Reverend Ford, would you lead us in a prayer?
Oh, gracious and everlasting God, Father, we come to tell you thank you. God, we thank you for another day we hadn't seen. God, we ask that you would bless this meeting. Bless it to be fruitful. God, we ask that if any sick among us, that you would heal and deliver right now. Get rid of every evil spirit, every evil thought. Bind every enemy, God, in the name of Jesus. Now bless everyone this year. Anyone sick, we ask them for a healing. God, we know you said in your word that you keep those that keep their minds staying on you, that you keep it in perfect peace. And God, we pray and thank you for this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. You may be seated. We're going to have a spotlight for some students by Dr. Pollard, and I see some of my very favorite ones.
Before we do that, Mr. Ford, did you want to tell the audience you had a special milestone at your church, did you not?
Well, yeah, we had a blessed day on yesterday. We had a 100-year appreciation for Mount Calvary Church of God in Christ. It was a blessing. We had
Mr. Fraser.
Mr. Fraser was there.
Yeah, there he is.
I know he had a good time, but he was not used to, you know. We ain't that old in this church. So we had a good time. Just got me going. Yeah, and he enjoyed it. I seen him patting his feet.
Congratulations.
Thank God for Jesus.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Well, we've got another neat story. We had at the end of September, we had a young lady on one of our school buses have a medical emergency. And that's always kind of a frightening time for the school bus driver because you're the only adult on the bus. And it was kind of a scary moment. The little girl had passed out, and so we had some young men jump into action and really help the bus driver that had still a bus full of a lot of little kids too. And so two guys in particular that are here tonight are going to get recognized. We've got Cameron Baker and Lucas Ayers, and they took the lead as far as telling the little ones to, first of all, don't start recording this. That's the thing in 2022. The first thing you do is you get out your phone, and these older guys spoke, and when they spoke, the young ones listened. And so they helped keep the little ones safe as they had to kind of exit the bus. It really helped keep everybody calm, and I was just super proud of them. And when I talked to them individually, these are some really respectful, mature, grown-up young men. And so we're in good hands. And so the least we could do was honor them tonight with a certificate and take their picture. And we'll put them on Facebook. They'll go viral. So Lucas Ayers and Cameron Baker, if you guys would mind coming on up. Y'all can give them a round of applause. Now, do we want Ms. Barrows? You want to come up here too? That Ms. Barrows is their principal, and we will take a picture. Finally, somebody just about as tall as I am.
Ms. Barrows height.
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2. Get 2 more. 1, 2, and 1 more. 1, 2. Thank you.
Now for our staff spotlight, we have a new counselor at the junior high, and her name is Stacy Pruitt. And Ms. Penrod, her principal, wrote a really nice synopsis of why they're so glad that she is there. We had a longtime counselor there that was beloved. It's always hard to replace someone like that, but Stacy has stepped in and won over the faculty, and everybody just loves her personality and sense of humor. And so Susie Rowe. When we first met Stacy Pruitt, we knew right away that we had found the perfect match for the junior high. Stacy's a first-year counselor, but you would never know it. Not only has she quickly learned about the daunting task of scheduling and 504s, but she willingly accepts any task we ask her to do. And she does all this while making sure she's available to the kids who need her. She has an extraordinary amount of patience and a huge heart. Plus, she has a fantastic sense of humor and keeps us laughing with her quick wit. She's been nothing short but a blessing to the junior high. So I can attest to that. She's been quite the addition to the staff, and we're sure glad she's here. We hope she stays here for a lot of years to come. So Stacy, thank you.
Thank you.
You ready for your certificate?
I'll let it here.
Good. Susie, you want to come on out?
Oh.
And we're so thankful for all the family that came for the boys and for Stacy.
All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 more, 1, 2, and the last one, 1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
We have a long list of extremely exciting things coming up at the school board meeting, such as minutes and financial statements and vital signs. If you would not like to endure all of that, you may leave at this time. You will not hurt our feelings.
Guys, thank y'all for coming.
Way to go.
Yep.
Thank y'all.
You bet. Thank y'all for coming. Don't worry about us. We'll just be here working.
Give y'all a lot more seating here.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is those items that are routine and that we just go ahead and accept without dwelling on them unless a school board member wants to pull one. They include minutes of September 19th, regular meeting, financial statements as of September 30th, bills and payrolls for September, budget amendments, year-to-date budget amendments to fund balance, vital signs report, and the food service report. Does anybody want to pull any of those? Do I hear a motion that we accept those? Linda Maxwell says, makes a motion to accept the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mary, okay, and anybody opposed? All for? And that one goes. Now we have items that we don't vote on. They're just for information. The first is the annual attorney report on the collection of delinquent taxes.
Robert.
Well, thank you for having me.
He knew that everybody was here for his report.
Where are they going? I'm so sorry. Because I get the same response from my family members, though. Well, thank you for having me present my annual report to you. I know you've got a lot of things to talk about. It won't take too long. I think you have before you or in your computers my report. There's a series of charts in there I'll go through briefly. I'll say that, as usual, the district is having a good year of property tax collections. That's something that I'm proud to be able to say to the district, to the school board, that district has on a regular basis a good report. And I've said this before, I think what drives property tax collections is, one, the ability of people to pay, meaning that I think the economy is strong, the community is vibrant, people have the desire, have the money to pay their taxes. The property's worth some money these days. Any property's worth anything, let me tell you. If we take anything to a tax sale, it's zipped right off the tax sale, and we don't have a chance much to do that these days because people are paying their taxes. And the reports I have in there sort of reflect what I'm saying. On the second page of my report, there's a chart in there that lists the last 5 tax years, which show the actual tax levy the district has levied each of the last 5 years, and the amount of property tax revenue you collected for that fiscal year. And this is on page 2 of the report. And it shows that the blue bar is the actual tax levy, the yellow bar is the actual collections. For example, 2021, the immediate past year, I'll slow down a little bit. Actually, I was born in Philadelphia, so I have a tendency to sort of, and those people up there think I'm a southerner. They can't imagine how slow I talk when I do that.
Are you an Eagle fan?
Eagles, Phillies. I used to be a Cowboy fan, but I think they gave up playing football yesterday. They'll be back. They'll be back. Dak will be back. Where the Cowboys will be. I'm also a Baylor Bear, really. And I don't know where they're going to be back. We got homecoming this weekend. We got Kansas. They think they can play football today. I've just lost track of things. 2021. And as an example, in 2021, you levied $10,359,000. You collected $10,436,000, which is 100.74% of your levy. In other words, when you add in the current year levy for 2021, the collections for that year, past year collections for 20 and 19 and 18, and the penalties and interest, you add all that together, and you end up with more than your actual levy. And your current collection percentage is very, very high. I tried explaining this to the school board the other day, and Mr. Frazier might catch up what I'm saying. If you had a little bit more delinquency, you'd have a little bit more penalty and interest, and that percentage above the levy of 0.74% would actually be higher. But because people pay their taxes, what really drives up that extra collections each year is the additional penalty and interest that you get when the taxes go delinquent. You don't have that much delinquency, you don't have that much penalty and interest. So I've always actually encouraged some of the school board members to get some of the taxpayers to slow down. But that's not happening. That's really good news for the community. Same thing with 2020. You're at 100.53% and 100.81% for 2019. As you can see, every year you're collecting more than your levy. Mr. Frazier likes to hear that. We have discussions about that on a regular basis throughout the year. The actual collection of the levy, and this is what I was sort of getting at, is the chart on page 3. The blue bar again is the levy. The green bar, these are the actual taxes for that particular tax year that have been collected to date, without penalties and interest, without prior year collections. And for getting back to 2021, you levied $10,359,000 in just 2021 taxes through August 31st of 2022, which is really just 11 months of collections because they don't get billed till October. You collected 98.68% of your levy. That means, just a very small, less than 1.5% of your levy was unpaid at that time. For those of us that make our living on that, that's sort of a dark cloud of good news, but it is good news for the district. And the balance of taxes for the other years, as of August 31st of this year, 98%, nearly 99% of your 2020 taxes have been collected, over 99% of every year prior then. So ultimately, most of your taxes get collected. A very small percentage of your taxes go uncollected. Less than 1% of your taxes ultimately don't get collected. And that's a really high percentage. Again, to me, it's a healthy sign of the economic circumstances, financial circumstances of the community. In the next 2 pages, there's four pie charts that reflect what you turn over to us and actually how we go about collecting your taxes. Each July, you turn over to us your unpaid taxes from the prior year. In July of this year, July of 2022, you turned over to us the unpaid taxes from 2021. At that time, there was $221,000 in unpaid taxes you turned over to us 3 months ago. And this report was, since I usually come in September, this report is all pegged for August 31st. In 3 months, we collected 38% of what you turned over to us as of July of that year, $84,000 of the $221,000, which is a pretty good chunk in just a very short period of time. As you can see, the balance of taxes, we're continuing our collection efforts in terms of filing lawsuits if we have to, and doing payout agreements with your taxpayers. And the rest of the taxes, we're continuing our collection activities. The other 3 pie charts on the next page, these are collected taxes you turned over to us in prior years. The top pie chart is 2020s you turned over to us 15 months ago. We collected 60.68% of that, and 73% of the 2019 and 2018. And Mr. Frazier has a chart that I don't know, that maybe as he and I follow, that compare each of my reports and the percentage of these charts. And just not to take away from these collection percentages, these are actually lower than what we get in prior years. If you went back to last year's numbers or prior years, if you track your chart. And the reason is that for 2020 and 19 and 18, I have a section in here, like a CAD litigation. You get about $30,000 for each of those years, about not quite $100,000 base tax in a lawsuit with the appraisal district with the property owner. Those taxes are being deleted. I talked to the appraisal district just when I was preparing this report. So although you have these percentages of 60% of the taxes for 2020 we've collected and 73% and 78%, those actual percentages would have been higher if that lawsuit hadn't been involving those taxes. And next year, they actually will be higher because they'll be taken off the roll. So really, you have pretty good numbers here, but you usually have better numbers, I guess what I'm trying to say. And the reason that you don't have the better numbers tonight is not because of the taxpayers not paying their taxes or not the activity that we've undertaken. You've got a lawsuit out there that the appraisal district is involved with over the value of the property, taxability of the property, that's going to end up having those taxes being taken off the roll. Now, this is a bad thing. You're going to lose $100,000 in base tax. But we also, and I've got a section at the end of my report, we will recover most of that from audit will file with TEA to recover that through school financing. So it's going out one door, but it's going to come back in another door. That's why these numbers aren't. But typically, as you can see, we actually, in a fairly short period of time, with the help of your taxpayers, get these things collected in a relatively short period. And how we go about doing this, on page 8, we send out notices throughout the year telling taxpayers. The state implemented a program early this year, in the spring of this year, that if you were income eligibility as your resident homestead and you had unpaid property taxes, they would, if you applied and you were granted, they would actually pay your property taxes, your delinquent property taxes. And so we sent out a series of notices, in addition to the standard notices we sent out to everybody that it had to be your resident homestead, and not just everybody, it had to be income qualified. To taxpayers, we sent it out in Spanish and English to make sure that anybody that might be eligible for that had information on how to contact the state. We included the state's website on that, their web address, and then their toll-free number to encourage them to contact the state and see if they could get actually a grant, not a loan. It was just a free money deal. And for anybody that qualified for that. Then we sent that out in addition to the normal notices that we sent out to make sure that your taxpayers have all the advantages that are out there for them to get their taxes paid. We did file some lawsuits in last year. We filed 34 lawsuits involving 42 different properties, $95,000. Most of the time the lawsuits are filed on distressed properties. Every community has got vacant and abandoned properties, lots, small tracts of land, unusable properties, or airship properties where people have just sort of passed on and their heirs have moved away and left the property behind them. Those type of lawsuits can become quite involved in trying to track down all those folks and notify them, but we do file lawsuits on those and recover those taxes through tax sales if it comes to that. We do recover 13 judgments. We file a lawsuit in district court. If someone doesn't pay their taxes, we actually set a hearing, and we have a hearing for the district judge of Coryell County. We filed 34 lawsuits. We had 13 judgments. As you can see, just a third of those really end up in judgment stage. And we did have tax sales in the last, 3 tax sales in the last year. We posted 16 properties for sale. 14 got paid, and only 2 properties got sold. And those were not anybody's homes or businesses or anything. Those were some of these vacant and abandoned properties that we're talking about that ended up getting sold. We do file bankruptcy litigation for you when people file bankruptcy and they have delinquent taxes due to the district. And going back to the last thing I have on my report is what I call property value audits. This is what I'm referring to, that CAD litigation. You're going to lose $100,000 in base tax. The state, I'm sure Mr. Frazier has explained to you, funds you. One of the main considerations of the funding you get is how wealthy the district is. And that's true of all schools. The more wealthy you are, the less money you get from the state. The less wealthy you are, the more money you get from the state. And we can file an audit with the state because every school district loses some of its levy throughout the years. Late homestead exemptions, corrections to the tax roll. And when that happens, you end up actually having less levy than what you started out with when you levied your taxes in October that year. And we can file an audit with the state, tell the state, well, back then we thought Gatesville was worth $10 million, well, they're only worth $950,000, or whatever the numbers are. We file that with the state. the state goes back and recalculates the state funding and says, Mr. Frazier, extra money. So he's actually got a lot more money than he's telling you about when he sees you passing the budget over there. No, he'd actually get, and so in the last few years, we've filed audits and recovered over $275,000 for the district in monies that, and it really is not extra money because it's money you would have gotten from your taxes, but we had these corrections to the roll. And you're gonna get this $100,000 back. We'll go back and refile for those years and make sure you get it. What he does with it, I don't know. And so we represent you in property tax collections, but anything that deals with property taxes, we file the audits for you. We do those on an annual basis, usually wait a year or two, and we go back and capture the changes to the tax roll. There's property value studies that go on every other year for the district. We make sure that the district is represented in property value studies. And so all these services are provided in our collection fees that we recover for the district. Because when you impose your tax, you refer your taxes to us, you also charge an additional collection fee on your unpaid taxes. And that's the money that goes to us. So that we don't cost the district any money, no out-of-pocket expenses, no portion of your actual levies that we're collecting for you. You get 100% of all that money, of the penalty and interest. Our fees are paid on directly to the delinquent taxpayer who hasn't paid his taxes in July after 6 months of delinquency. And so we've been doing this for a while for the district, more years than I think some of us would want to actually think about. But we appreciate the opportunity to work with the district and represent you in property tax collections. I think I was here a couple of years ago talking about Rufus King down there. We worked with him when he had your own tax office in those years and things like that.
Robert, we sure appreciate it. You always do a great job of getting that money for us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us. And look forward to seeing you guys next year.
Yes.
And perhaps at Tassi itself.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Robert,
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Summer feeding.
Robert, be careful.
Thank you so much.
The thing I like about Robert, when he gets excited about taxes. He really does. Look, I gotta say a word about the local folks, Justin Carruthers and his group. They typically collect about 98% of the taxes. And it's only about 2% that actually gets referred to Robert's firm at the end of the year. And so what he's reporting on then is mostly the delinquency taxes collection that his firm does. But even Justin Carruthers' office works with him, and he uses their staff to do some of that collection. So I want to compliment Justin and his department, his team, for the great work that they do year in and year out, collecting our taxes. And the chart that he was referring to was this one that you see in there. I have actually the last 13 years of his reports all summarized on this one chart. He was impressed with that. But there was a little thing he needed to tweak because it went down. His usual percentages went down a little bit, so he made an explanation, which is great. Also, the numbers on the bottom of this chart are the numbers that will show up on the audit in terms of the amount, estimate of the amount that's uncollectible. Just a heads up. All right, summer feeding. This year, summer feeding, we fed 12,000 meals in a 48-day period. It is down from the prior year. And we, as a result, recorded a loss of about 4,000 for the summer of '22. Two things attribute to that. One is the number of feeding sites was decreased by 1, and that was so we can stay in compliance with TDA's regulations. We worked with Jeffrey Burdshaw, who is the TDA rep over at Region 12. And Emily and he got together, and there were some things that we were doing that weren't altogether correct. And there's limitations in terms of how many sites you can go to. And if you go to the sites, you have to have staff a certain amount of time. You can't just go drop off the meals like we used to do. So that was the reason for the reduction in the number of sites. The labor went up a little bit, and I'm surmising here that the prior year was probably a little bit down. It's a little bit difficult for my payroll department to actually correctly code the cafeteria personnel during the summer, because we're still continuing to pay a lot of the personnel on a 12-month basis. But then for the purposes of this report, we want to just capture the ones that worked in the summer feeding program. So we were very careful this year to make sure that we captured the actual payroll for the ones that were working summer feeding. So I'm thinking that's probably why the discrepancy between that and the prior year. But, you know, that's the first time in 6 years that we have not run a profit. Last year's profit was about 1,000, but it could have been less if the payroll had been a little higher. Like I said, payroll was probably a little bit low last year. So I think they did a great job in doing the summer feeding. We prepared the meals all out of the elementary campus, but we still provided meals to a lot of different places in the city. And the one that was omitted was the care center and the local library. Those ones, we didn't have the staff to go over there and stay there. And but they did a great job. Megan is here with SFE, and she and her crew worked very hard on it. And there was still a lot of meals that were served. We also, this is cut back a little bit from what we used to do. There's no serving in the month of August. And that was creating really a burden on the cafeteria staff and not being adequately prepared for the next year. So our number of days has kind of declined in the last year or two as well. I want to compliment our SFE and cafeteria staff for all the work they did in the summer, getting up here and cooking all summer and serving. I know one of those serving units was right outside of the junior high. And I used to go by and honk at them every morning, and they were out there bright early in the morning serving those kids. So I know we're proud of it. Any questions about the summer feedings for this year?
All right.
Good?
Thanks,
sir.
Daryl.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Gathering Gatesville, family night. The ever popular Michelle Martin.
You know it's fun
What
when
do you
I'm
got
up
up your
here.
sleeve this year?
I do have something up my sleeve. Well, you know me. I can't just stop at one thing. So, in a meeting, we decided, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did something to bring the community together, to let them know what we as a school can offer them. So this turned into our Gathering Gatesville. They'll all, I think, have one of these. And what we're doing, it's going to be at the high school on November 10th from about 5:30 to 7. We're spotlighting how we as a school can help you as a community. And we're going to have services that we can direct parents and families to, like Hidden Gem, Righteous Roots, Fort Hood, Child and Family, or yeah, that one. We're gonna have a GED there. But then the really cool part of this is we're spotlighting all of our CTE classes. And so I went around and I asked the teachers if they would be interested in participating. And it's kind of like a career slash expo slash trade show. So each CTE class, if they wish, can have a booth in the school cafeteria and show what they're learning, what projects they've worked on. The best of all is what they can offer to the community, which is where Hire a Hornet comes in. If you click on this little QR code on the flyer, it'll take you to this. And what we want to do is just give our students a little extra, a little push, put them out there. And so say, for example, the welding class, because they're going to be there. And they're going to have some of their projects they've worked on, like, you know, the decorative art that you've seen. Sometimes, you know, they've helped farmers with a piece of equipment. They're going to be up there. They're going to have those decorative pieces of art, but then they're also going to say, hey, we're here and we could do a project for you. So give us a call. The automotive, they're going to be there. They're pretty excited about it because they're bringing either a car or an engine or something. I don't know what.
To the cafeteria.
To the patio. We're not going to put it in the cafeteria. Thought about it. It's a little hard to get through the doors. So they're going to be there saying, hey, we have learned to do this, this, and this. And the same for several different ones. And for each of the CTE classes, I've made up a little fast fact that y'all can just kind of see. It gives some information about the class, what they're doing, what they would like to do, and if they are willing to do a project for an individual person. Has a contact number on there, and it's just, you know, it's just, I think, a good way for us to get involved in the community, let them know that possibly they could hire one of our graduates. And I have to tell you this story. So I went out to talk to some members of the community. You got the email. And I went to the chamber and I started telling the chamber about what we were thinking about doing. My goodness, they were so excited. They offered any of our CTE classes a free table at the market days for them to come up and either sell their stuff as a fundraiser, just information, whatever. And then the really neat thing that just kind of touched my heart is I was telling them about the life skills class because they run this Stinger Cafe on Friday where they fix coffee and muffins and stuff. They said, hey, why don't you let them come up here and do a pop-up? And they can do it inside. We'll help advertise it. I just thought, oh my gosh, now that is a community that loves the school. So anyway, that's kind of what we're going to be doing. And then Harper and I were talking one day, and he said, well, what are you going to do in the spring? I said, ooh, I don't know about that. But so kind of looking ahead, what I'm thinking about is doing another community event. And my working title is Summer Spectacular. I would like to gather in one place at one of the schools and showcase what's happening in the summer, where they can go for, like the Chivalry, for vacation Bible schools, the athletic camps that are all offered, educational camps, you know, like the ones they offer at Baylor, at TSTC, at CTC, information on market days, farmers markets, the youth rodeo, even something like the city pool, what hours they're open, the drive-in, museums, libraries, just some way for our families to know that Gatesville is a really neat place to live. We've got some great things going on here. So that's what I've been up to. Do you have any questions?
Or you may add us to your list, probably. Partners.
How are your attendance visits going?
They're going really well. I've done quite a few. The last one I did, let's see, I can tell you about, I have a young lady who doesn't always like to get up and come to school. And I found out where she worked. And so I talked with her boss and I said, hey, can you help us out? We want her to graduate. She just needs this much. And so her boss said, absolutely, I want her to do the same thing. So we sat down, talked together with this young lady, worked out an arrangement. Well, didn't quite work out the same way. The young lady didn't think I would keep checking up on her, nor did she think I would actually call her boss back again. So I called her boss and I said, hey, she's not here, is she at work? Yes. How about I come talk to her again? So we went and talked again, and we have changed her schedule to where she works in the morning and she comes to school in the afternoon. And we check in daily with her boss. So
That's wonderful.
that, and then went and picked up a 5th grader, 6th grader for you? And not for Harper, for register. The grandma said, you know, I just can't get her to go to school. She just doesn't want to go. And I said, well, how about I come visit? And so Officer Bergen and I went, and sure enough, we got there, she was watching television, and I said, hey, it's time to go to school. And she was like, I don't want to go to school. I said, why? I just don't want to. I said, you gotta go. You just have to go. There's no reason not to go. So we talked, and I said, why aren't you there today? And she said, well, I have cramps. And I said, honey, everybody in the world's got cramps. We just have to go to school. I said, go get dressed. I'm waiting for you. And so she stomped off to her room, and she didn't come out. And then I went and banged on the door. I said, hey, I'm still here. And then she came out, and then she went to the bathroom, and then I went and banged on the door and said, hey, it's time to go. And so then she went to school. So I hope she's been there. So that's how my visits are going. That's
Good
great.
job.
It's interesting. Do y'all have any questions about any of this?
Sounds like a fun night. You said that's November 10th?
November 10th at the high school cafeteria and patio. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be great for the kids. In fact, I had one teacher email me today about doing market days. They were real excited about doing that with their kiddos. So,
Way to go.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Great.
All right,
Working to get those attendance numbers up.
I'm
Professor
working
Webb,
Good evening.
scoring, scores.
Yeah. Well, you guys have seen this twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year for the past several years, just kind of giving you an update of where we are. You know, our reading and math inventories that everyone takes. You know, kindergarten has TexKIA, which is the Texas Kindergarten Entry Assessment. You have first and second graders take the TPRI, which is the Texas Primary Reading Inventory, and their math piece is the Texas Early Math Intervention called TIMI. And then 3rd through 8th grade take BAS, Benchmark Assessment, for the reading levels. And then we started a new assessment this year called MAP Growth for math. And we gave it through 3rd through 8th grade students. The 8th graders that are in Algebra 1 did not get the assessment, but it's for 3rd through 8th grade. And it kind of gives them a a reference on a proficiency on whether they might meet STAR progress. It's a STAR progress measure. but it also measures whether they're on grade level and things like that. And so we'll kind of go through this. I won't spend a lot of time, but you can see that, you know, this is the first one is Texkia, the reading. You can still see it. We have lots of kids that still need support. So we work on that through interventions and our RTI processes and things like that. The math, you know, you still reads a lot of the same information. You know, the green there on track, the blue is monitoring, the red is there needing support. First grade TPRI, so it's measured by still developing or developed, and you can kind of see where we're performing right now. First graders, Timmy. Math looks a little bit better than the reading side of it. And then second grade TPRI, and you have your still developing, and same with Timmy. And then we get into third grade BAS. And you can kind of see where our kids are reading below grade level. The red approaching is just one letter below, on level, and then the percentage of kids that are above level. So you can kind of see where we are. Third grade, fourth grade, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. We still got a long ways to go. You know, but this is such a subjective test, BAS, and we're really struggling with it because it is so subjective. We tried to get some consistency with it. We were kind of all over the board with how we were scoring, and it's the teacher, you know, it's teacher subjectivity. And so,
is there anything else out there?
Well, that's what we're looking at. We're trying to think about some other options. We just don't know.
I don't know.
We spend a lot of time assessing. We spend lots of time,
lots.
and so I don't know. We're not gonna dump it unless we have something to replace it with, and so we don't know what that is, but we're looking at some different things.
It's always hard to look at the results this early in the year.
Yeah. And so then you get down into what I really want to talk about is, I got my phone with me, is the MAP growth. You know, and right now we're looking at the teacher incentive allotment, and the teacher incentive allotment is it's a way to help try to increase teacher pay, and part of that piece is student growth. And a lot of schools that are in the teacher incentive allotment that are going through that process now use this assessment right here called MAP growth. Last year we piloted it with third grade. You give a fall assessment, a fall assessment, a winter assessment, and then you give one at the end of the year. But you have the STAR test also. And so this kind of right here, I don't have the STAR projected proficiency. This is a different chart that I pulled because I didn't have access to the projected, what a student would be projected to make on the STARS test in the spring. So this just kind of breaks down by grade level. And you can kind of see there, let's see what color. Blue is at grade level or above. Green is below grade level, like just below grade level. Yellow is 1 grade below, and red is 2 grades below. Now it's based off this assessment. When you look at the STAR projected proficiency measure on it will project how a kid scores on this assessment on what they will score in the spring on the STAR test. And so, you know, you either not going to meet, you're projected to not meet, you're projected to approach, you're projected to meet, or you're projected to master. And so, what I did come up with, what I pulled, let me find it.
How do I do that?
But you can see it from third grade, and then it kind of gets worse as we move on down. And I don't have much other data to provide except for I'm going to go over some numbers that we had last year in third grade, because third grade was the only grade that piloted it last year. So in the fall, the STAR, when our third grade students, or fourth graders now, took this assessment, 36% were projected to not meet the STAR test. Okay? Then they took it again in the winter, and only 32% were projected to not meet.
And the actual percentage to not meet was 24.8 on STAR. So we got better. So we went from 36 to 32 to 25, you know. And so when you look at approaches, it was projected 64% of third graders would approach in the fall. Then when we took it in the winter, 68% were projected to approach. And in the spring, 76% actually approached. So we went from 64 to 68 to 76. So we increased. So we got more kids. And it also it gives us a measurement. It breaks it down on skills where kids are struggling. It helps us target this group of kids struggle with this skill. This group of kids struggle with this skill. This group of kids struggle with this skill. And so the teachers can use some shared RTI time to, this teacher can work with this group of kids, this teacher, this group of kids on certain skills that they might be struggling with. For instance, meets. So last fall, 21% were projected to meet, 32% in the winter, and 50% actually met in the spring on the actual STAR test. On masters last fall, it was 6.5%. In the winter, this is the only one that fell, it dropped to 6% on mastery, and then the actual STAR test, 24% mastered. And so that just gives you a little sample size of how our kids performed last year historically. And so this is our first year to do 4th through 8th. And so we'll kind of look and see.
So look at 4th again.
Now this isn't the same chart that I just read out because I didn't have access to this when I created this to get the board packet in. This is based off grade level, and so I'd be willing to say the 3rd grade on level, you know, were they on level, 1 grade level below, 2 grade level below. I bet it was worse than what this chart is actually saying.
So the chart is actually comparing the TEKs for that grade level. Then when you go to the, correct me if I'm wrong, if you go to the 4th grade chart, it's projecting success on 4th grade TEKs.
Right. So
which is very different.
It builds, the test gets harder the better the kid does.
Right.
And so it gets easier the worse the student is doing. And so it kind of tries to meet them where they are. And then it kind of gives you a projection. And they are.
And you do it for math and reading?
You can do it for reading, but we've only have used it for math right now. I would like to expand into reading at some point, and that might be something we look at next year.
But you do have a report that shows 3rd grade on level math.
Yes, that's this right here.
Okay. And so it'd be interesting to see how this chart compares not only to the test that you give, but the grade level projection.
Correct.
For example, I don't know if you have this data or not, but the current 4th grade class, based on this, should be pretty high.
Correct. I haven't pulled their data yet. I just did this afternoon.
But it looks pretty good.
We'll see. From
the end of 3rd.
Right.
So I'd be interested to see how many people walked in the door at intermediate school on grade level in 4th grade.
Well, you can see based off this score, you can see where they went in. So like if you look at the STAR test, this same group of kids, 76% met, approached, 50% met, 24% mastered. And you can see where 37% of them are at grade level or above, 22% are below. So it is a tougher assessment, I think. So I think the results, you take the results, I think we'll see improvements each.
And the proof in the pudding is in that 22% that are below. How far below? Are they barely below?
Right.
Are they a grade level below?
It's somewhere between one and on grade level.
Right. But in that somewhere land is where those teachers really have their work cut out for them.
So, but this will give them a real good data on where their kids are struggling. So, anyways, and then And like I said, we're looking, we're in the process now of building the application for teacher incentive allotment. It's something that TEA has come out with on how to increase teacher pay. And depending on what your rating is, there's two things that help you get that allotment. It's amount of money based off your T-tests and based off of a student growth measure. And for our teachers, for some reason, Gatesville is not considered a rural school district in the state of Texas. In the eyes of the state of Texas, it is unbelievable.
We're not a rural school.
We are not considered a rural school
What
district.
are we?
But Lampasas is, Burnet is, Lorena, China Spring
What are we?
is considered a rural school district. You believe that? And so those districts are eligible for more money in teacher incentive allotment than we are. And so based off of a teacher rating, our teachers might could get maybe an extra $4,000 to $5,000 all the way up to 16 or 17. Some of those other districts, depending on what level you get, they could get an extra $20,000, $22,000 a year because they're considered a rural school district.
So, that allotment depends more on growth more than achievement?
Two measures, yeah, it's based off of growth, not achievement. It's all on how much your kids are growing, not on what they're achieving, but how
And when
much
you
they
get
grow
them to-
from beginning of the year to the end of the year. And so this is just something we're considering maybe using to measure that growth.
Are you gonna consider then all 10 fourth grade rooms or third grade rooms or however many you have?
That's something we've got to
Are
decide.
homogeneously grouped?
Well, it doesn't matter how they're grouped because it's all based on growth. You don't look at their achievement. You look on where they came into you and where they leave you. How much did they grow from the beginning of the year to the end of the year? It doesn't matter if they're low kids, high kids. Did they grow?
Well, that sounds more fair.
It is more fair.
Look, I could live with that.
Except on the high end, it's harder to show growth.
Yeah, it might be.
But,
You're right.
But they're already there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a higher kid the growth might be slower
Yeah,
or not as steep.
yeah.
So
But you have kind of a balanced classrooms.
I don't think so. Don't some teachers have, are majority special ed or have, isn't there a couple of teachers that take a lot of the special ed kids and?
Oh.
yeah, but that might be a class you might want to have because you could make some great growth there.
So I think they are divided. They're not all just high, medium, low, high, medium, low, high,
Right.
medium, low.
Those are things for us to look at, consider. But this is just something new that we started this year. We didn't have a math measurement. We haven't had one since MSTAR. So this is just something that we're.
So if a
just kinda
teacher
process-
applied for this, was accepted, the application was accepted, and their growth level met their criteria, they
So-
could get more money?
So how it works is we write the application and we make the determination as a district on which groups of teachers are going to be involved in the teacher incentive allotment. And then
And what is that based on?
we write the application this year. Next year's the data capture year and it's based off your T-tests and based off your student growth. So it's two pieces of it.
Interesting. Kind of like going back to the career ladder.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're
wanna
afraid,
date
we're
myself.
afraid,
I'm gonna mention to the
We're-
teachers who's in that
we're
allotment
afraid,
group.
yeah, we're just in the first parts of it. The application's not due until April. It's pretty time consuming and it's
I'm sure.
pretty large. We're in a cohort with Region 12 right now to help build the application. But, yeah.
If we're not rural, do they consider us urban?
This is what's crazy about, there's so many different definitions about large city and Suburban, and I mean, I can't tell you how many, but they sent me all the way to the National Department of Education.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't make that determination. So then I had Region 12 was helping me with the state on why we're not considered a rural school district. And they have these goofy definitions about because of we're so far from a population center of so much that it doesn't consider us a rural school district. I don't know if it has to do with the county and where between where it's just us and Cove. It's just a weird situation. Like, I mean, we're not considered a rural school district. It's unbelievable. But so you wonder, does that affect us in like getting grants for technology? We have a struggle with internet connectivity in the community. Do we struggle with getting certain grants because we're not a rural community by the definitions of the state of Texas? So I don't know.
Continue arguing.
Yeah. Anyways.
Great job in the report. I think the next page is me. Annual announcement of board training. By law, I will read this verbatim. It has to do with the board's up-to-date placement on staff training. Under State Board of Education rule, completing required continuing education each year of service is a basic obligation and expectation of any sitting board member. As board president, I am required to announce the name of each member who has completed the required education, who's exceeded, and is deficient. There's even pressure as a school. The requirements for training are measured as of the first anniversary of the date of the trustee election or appointment of 2-year anniversary of his or her previous training as applicable. There are 7 training areas for board member continuing education. 1, local district orientation. 2, orientation to the Texas Education Code. By the way, they always have a test that go with them too. 3, post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code. 4, team building. 5, additional continuing education. 6, evaluating student academic performance and setting goals. That's what we just did. 7, identifying and reporting abuse, trafficking, and other maltreatment of children. And 8, a biggie this year is school safety. To the extent applicable, each board member, I will announce the completion or deficiency as required. For members who still have time remaining to complete required training, I will announce those board members who have scheduled timely training and those who have not yet scheduled training. At the conclusion of this announcement, I will pronounce any board member's training in excess of the continuing education requirements. Local district orientation. No new board members were required to complete local district orientation for the time period covered by this announcement. Orientation to the Texas Education Code. No new board members were required to complete orientation to the Texas Education Code training for the time period covered by this announcement. That's because we've already done it. Post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code. No new board members were required to complete post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code training for the time period covered by the announcement. Team building. The following board members have completed the annual team building training: Charles Alderson, Charles Ament, Jimmy Ferguson, Calvin Ford, Cheyenne Kaiser, Marianne Lieb, and Linda Maxwell. Additional continuing education. The following board members have completed the additional continuing education requirements: Charles Alderson, Charles Ament, Jimmy Ferguson, Calvin Ford, Cheyenne Kaiser, Marianne Lieb, and Linda Maxwell. Evaluating student academic performance and setting goals. The following board members have completed the biannual training on evaluating student academic performance and setting goals: Charles Alderson, Charles Ament, Jimmy Ferguson, Calvin Ford, Cheyenne Kaiser, Mary Ann Lieb, and Linda Maxwell. Identifying and reporting abuse, trafficking, and maltreatment of children. And that was an eye-opening session, I will tell you. The following board members have completed the biennial training on identifying and reporting abuse and trafficking: Charles Alderson, Cheyenne Kaiser, Mary Ann Lieb, and Linda Maxwell. The following board members have completed the biennial training on school safety: Charles Alderson, Charles Ament, Jimmy Ferguson, Calvin Ford, Cheyenne Kaiser, Mary Ann Lieb, and Linda Maxwell. Exceeding required continuing education. Board member Charles Alderson exceeded the required amount of continuing education by 1 hour. Board member Cheyenne Kaiser exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 1 hour. Mary Ann Lieb exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 6 hours. Board member Linda Maxwell exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 3 additional hours. And that is my report. And next, dissemination of the framework. We just did that.
Which was included in the package,
Okay.
so they should have
Included.
reviewed it.
Review the GISD Emergency Operations Procedure, Basic Plan, Active Threat Annex, and Active Shooter Appendix. Yancey,
That's me. How are y'all this evening?
we're good.
So on, well, I'll report on one thing that wasn't in here because we didn't know when it was going to happen. But on last Thursday, we had our door audit. The high school had their door audit from the state. You may or may not. The state is, Governor Abbott has mandated that every school campus in the state has their security check door audit, and we passed with flying colors. And so that was good to get that out of the way, so to speak. It was something we didn't know when it was going to happen. It was just, we were kind of
Did
giving
someone
up
just walk up and
window.
start trying to open the doors?
Yeah, they gave us a window, but yeah, the service center has hired, they have a name for them, it just slipped my mind, but the people that go out and check, and they just show up on your campus and see if they can get in. The process, they see if they can get in 3 doors. They try 3 different doors. If they can't get in, then they go to the front office and report themselves, and then they take an administrator and check every door on the exterior of the building, and then they check a few doors on the inside of the building to make sure that they're locked during instruction.
Oh,
And so
way to go.
that was exciting to get that done. But this piece is another component of Governor Abbott's safety requirements. Is we had to submit 3 pieces: the EOP basic plan, the active threat annex, and the active shooter appendix. Those are all components of our whole emergency operating procedures. We had to submit those 3 for review by October 12th. And we submitted those on October 6th for review. And when we get the results back, we'll report those results on you. But we wanted to include those for you guys to look at to see what we reported or what we submitted. We live in unpredictable times, and the goal is for every campus, every student to be as safe as possible. And these plans are our emergency management program, and they focus on 5 phases of emergency management: mitigation, prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. So, y'all, any questions about the plans that we submitted? Okay. I think I'm up for several of these next.
Campus improvement, which we'll have to vote on.
Yeah, I would like to actually, if I can have permission, just flip my 2
Yes.
action items.
Yes.
Because my second action item actually relates to the safety component. And so I'll jump ahead to the adopting NIMS, if that's okay. And so one thing that we did in development of the EOP basic plan and the active shoot, those documents that we just talked about previously, is the School Safety and Security Committee designated Dr. Pollard, Superintendent, and Chief of Police, Chief Stiles, to be trained in FEMA's Incident Command System and the National Incident Management System. Some of you guys are on the Safety and Security Committee. And this was a recommendation from the State Safety and Security Center for multiple reasons, but NIMS is a comprehensive national approach to incident management. It is applicable to all jurisdiction levels and across functional disciplines. Using NIMS helps districts utilize a more efficient and effective response to incidents and ensure we are eligible to receive federal preparedness funds if the need ever arises. So adopting NIMS helps us communicate with law enforcement, with all first responders, using the same language, the same terminology. And it also, when we officially adopt it, makes us eligible to receive federal preparedness funds if they were ever needed. And so, are there any questions about NIMS or how? And Dr. Pollard and Chief Stiles have completed the training and are already certified in NIMS.
So you needed a motion to adopt the National Incident Management System.
I would like to recommend, my recommendation is the board adopt the National Incident Management System as our official emergency response system.
I have a motion by Jimmy Ferguson. Okay, a second by Linda. Anybody else want to discuss it? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? And it passes.
Thank you. Now I'll go to the campus improvement plan component. You may remember, I think 2 meetings ago, presented on our comprehensive needs assessment and how we look at our federal grants and how we identify the needs and how we're going to use our grant money. Well, that comprehensive needs assessment process, this is the final step of that. So we use it to identify the needs and how we're going to attack those needs, and then we put it all into our campus and district improvement plans. So the information you've seen before, those plans were also included for you to review, but we do have to, as a district, adopt those. But each campus and district submits the improvement plans for board approval. The plans were developed with a platform called Plan for Learning. We've used that platform for the past 4 years because it kind of walks you through the process, and there are a lot of legal components that you have to include in the plans, and Plan for Learning makes sure you include those. It ensures, helps us to meet the compliance requirements. The plans are designed to serve as a guiding document for campuses in the district. They address campus, districts, and goals, current needs, and strategies, and strategies to address those needs. The plans also include a summary of the faculty we pay with federal funds. They're working documents. We hope that you will approve them today, but as needs arise, as adjustments change, as needs change, we can make adjustments to those throughout the course of the school year. And what we do every year, and what I'll do now, is kind of open the floor to the campuses to give a brief summary of their plan. And it's kind of like when you're a teacher and you're going to call on a student and no one makes eye contact.
I just assume I'm first.
Hey, come on up, Ms. Sharon.
Susie said make it quick.
She's kind of setting the bar.
Yeah, I know, that's why I said I hate going first.
Elevator speech.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So this is just a summary of our campus plan, and I guess you have a copy of that. But some of the areas, so at our campus, you know, we focus safety and security, academics, attendance, and then our family engagement. As far as safety and security, you know, making sure all those classroom doors stay closed and locked all day. We have our SRO and custodians that are checking doors. Teachers have done really well with this. I closed a couple of doors today because even if they're not in the room, they're supposed to be closed and locked. So, but overall, any issues where we've had some faulty doors and some things not locking have been replaced now. They're really good about reporting those kinds of things. We've added more of the window coverings to our building and our school, and as our leadership team, we've talked about, it would be nice if we could go ahead and get like all of those classroom windows also covered. As far as academics, our teachers are following TEAC's resource system. Our kindergarten teachers are starting their day off using the Hegarty and Foundations curriculum that we started last year. It's been a really great phonics curriculum. Our students in kindergarten attend a literacy lab 1 time a week, so they're getting an hour of extra phonemic awareness and phonics support. Using our TextKia data from the beginning of the year, students are divided up and go to what we call our win time or our what I need time. So that's 30 minutes every day. For those students that are needing more targeted support, those students get 30 minutes of reading intervention with Mrs. Masters, who's our reading interventionist. And then this year, our teachers get an hour-long conference each day. But one of the things that they really wanted to see was a time where all of them could come together and collaborate together within the school day. So this year, they have one day of collaboration where all 9 kindergarten teachers have a full hour to plan. And so our rotation teachers double up on that day, and so they're able to sit down and plan and look at data one day a week. And then we've also worked in some time so that each semester, or each 9 weeks, both pre-K and K get a 2-hour planning time. So again, our rotation teachers really step up and help them with that, and then they have 2 hours. They usually schedule that at the end of close to a progress report time or report card time. Attendance, that's something that we're really hitting hard, so that's something we're monitoring that every week. Sandra and I make calls on those unexcused absences. We make home visits if necessary. Teachers are really doing good with their classroom incentives for good attendance. So some have Fun Fridays, some have their classes spelling out Hornets. So when they have a day where everyone's there, they earn a letter, and once they spell out Hornets, they earn a party or some kind of a reward. We had our first attendance awards for the first 9 weeks last Friday, and so they got a certificate, they got a charm for their backpack. We had 52 kindergarten kids that had perfect attendance, so we're really pleased with that. And then the 2 classes, the pre-K and kinder classrooms that had the best attendance, got a popcorn party Friday afternoon. And then we'll have some other attendance incentives at the end of the year. We'll put names in for a drawing for a bicycle. And then the last thing is our family engagement. That's a big priority for our campus. So in addition to the regular things like Meet the Teacher and parent conferences, this year we'll have our fall family night. We'll do a December family movie night. Last year I approached Lexi about doing a music program at Christmas, and that was a huge hit. We do it at the high school in the auditorium, and we're going to do that again this year, so that brings parents out. And then in the spring we'll have a family math night, and we have a very active PTO this year, I'm very proud to report. And then, of course, at the end, we have our kindergarten graduations and our pre-K end-of-the-year awards and programs. So that's pretty much what's going on at front here. Y'all have any questions?
Sounds really good.
How are y'all? So 3 big priorities at elementary this year. First one being safety. So that's kind of been first and foremost. We are getting more used to locked doors. Teachers are doing a really great job with it, and it's hard with little guys having classroom doors locked. We've kind of had to get creative on systems that we implement on, we have door monitors in most classrooms that are watching when a kid knocks, because you don't want to constantly interrupt instruction, and little guys go to the bathroom a lot. So that's something that we've had to get had to rethink a little bit of how we do that with our safety, but really made that a priority. Our cafeteria doors are locked during cafeteria, our gym doors, all those different places where we have mass students, and so we've really worked on that. We've had drills for every emergency already. We kind of had a heyday the first week of school where we practiced all the drills, and then we're periodically revisiting those as well. So second big incentive for us this year is attendance. And we've had some really great things with attendance so far. We've been between 95 and 98% every week so far this year, so we're proud of that. We've got an attendance improvement committee, so they're hitting it on the positive side. They're coming up with creative competitions. Our kids and teachers love competitions. They kind of thrive on that. We have lots of awards going out with attendance. We have a VIP lunch every 6 weeks for kids that had 1 or less excused absence, no office referrals, no bus referrals. They get to go out to the Outdoor Learning Center. They eat with us, which you wouldn't think is that cool, but little guys, they think it's cool. So we eat, we have music, and then we have a special guest come in. So the first 6 weeks we had the cheerleaders and buzz, which was amazing. And I think our second one, we're gonna have some of our adopt-a-school units actually come out there too as our special guests for that. We even gave parent awards, which actually was a tremendous hit. We drew one parent from each grade level of a kiddo that had perfect attendance, and we gave them a $25 Walmart or HEB, somewhere local in town gift card, and then some elementary swag. So trying to get creative on that attendance, but then we're also hitting on the other end as well. We've got our kiddos on a spreadsheet, we're tracking them, we're really diligent in those phone calls and follow-throughs and home visits on those for our kiddos that aren't coming to school as regularly. So third big thing for us is our academic focus, and a really big focus on that for us is how we use our data to target our interventions. So we have an hour intervention block. Ms. Shara talked about it at primary being called WIN. We call it the same thing, what I need. Spent a lot of time with teachers today with giant chart paper and Post-it notes, and we take our data from our unit assessments and quick checks. Where are our kids? How are they doing? What are we not mastering? And how do we intervene in that? And we're constantly looking at that data and how we serve and target our kiddos to get them where they need to be. That's always been important, but really important post-COVID, because your kiddos are not all on the same level. So how do we hit every kid where they're at? How do we give them what they need and target that individually? So big focuses for us at elementary. Thank you.
Ms. Shara, is your attendance 95 or higher?
No, it's been 93, 94. I think
close.
it's one of the best.
You're almost there.
It's, the little ones catch everything.
Well, I sound like a broken record because everything that they're basically talking about is the same things that we're talking about. I really have three main things. We want our kids safe, we want them there, and we want them learning. And so it boils down to the same exact things that we've talked about. And safety and security, of course, we're talking about our lessons, we're doing our drills, we're keeping our doors locked. Our kiddos have ID badges, and so like our kids, if they are in the classroom and we knock on the door, like we are like showing our ID so that they know if they don't have an ID, we don't open the door. And so those are things that we've never really had to think about before. We're also doing some attendance incentives. For our kids, we are doing, well, they're kind of called brag tags, but they basically are like a link, and then they have a tag for each month. So if the kids hit 95% or more, then they get a tag for each month. And so that's been something that we've started this year. And fourth graders, they love it. Sixth graders, not so much. I mean, sixth grade, like, what is this, and why do I get one of these? But again, it is something. It is difficult to kind of make everybody happy. But the kids are excited about it, and we are. A lot of our teachers within our pods and that type of thing, they try and do like a little bit of competition, like, hey, I bet your homeroom beats my homeroom or whatever, and they kind of make it like a big deal for the kids. And so we have had good attendance overall. I mean, ultimately we wanted at least 93% for, just to get us back to where we were. And so our kiddos are really hitting 95, 96, and so we're proud of them. Of course, and we're trying to brag on them and say, hey, keep it up. We're really proud of you. We had one, it was fifth grade, and she just had to let us know, like, for 7 days in a row, my kids have had perfect attendance. And that's a hard thing, with some of our kiddos, because, for some of us, it is a struggle. I mean, I'm talking to my own child about, look, mom doesn't always want to go to work, but I'm here no matter what. And so, that's one of those things for them as well. And so we try and, involve a lot of awareness in this as well. And so talking about bringing our families in, it's not always the easy thing to do, but, trying to include some family activities. We have our book fair going on right now. We're having our fall festival, which has always been a big hit for the last couple of years. That's going to be this Thursday. We just kind of bring in everyone, and we have, just a lot of fun. The kids get a kick out of it because they get to see the teachers like out of their normal, typical classroom attire, and we've got, kind of get to put on some personas for that kind of thing. So, and then during the spring, one thing that we're going to start is we're going to do more of a showcase with our rotation classes. So STEM, art, music, and that type of thing. And then also talking about Miss Berry. She is our music, teacher, and so she's going to have the kids singing, by grade level and that kind of thing. So we're just trying to find different ways and different activities to, to filter in our different parents and that type of thing. So that was more of our safety and security. Of course, being here, we talked about that. Our curriculum and technology, just our learning. House Bill 4545 has come across our doorstep, and it's kind of an ugly thing, but it's kind of a nice thing also. So what that is there are accelerated intervention plans for our kiddos who have failed any area of the STAR testing, starting in the 3rd grade. So 4th graders coming up, they're now required to do 30 hours of pretty much intensive intervention in that STAR area that they failed. So, you know, luckily there are 2 tests, math and reading, for 3rd grade. So those are coming on board, and now we're having to make sure that we get those 30 hours in for all of those students. And so, like everyone else is talking about, we have a win time, what I need time, which is an hour. And the beautiful thing is we get those 30 minutes for math and for reading, you know, just for exactly what they need, and it fits perfectly so that we're allowed to cover those 30 hours over the course of the year. Now, that's not to say that's the only time that intervention is going on. It kind of falls back into our curriculum side of things. So, you know, we're wanting our balanced literacy there. We want to make sure that our math and reading teachers are doing mini lessons and do guided reading, small group instruction, so that way they can also use and pull in those gap areas that our kids need. And so that's how we're covering that for math and reading. 6th grade is a little different. 6th grade, because 5th graders have 3 tests. They have that science test on top of that. So we have to be really creative and find ways to get all of these times and documentation and everything covered. So it's definitely no small feat to get it all done. Another thing technology-wise is we are attempting to go one-to-one in our Chromebooks on our campus. Currently, 6th grade has, for the most part, one-to-one. But then again, when you start talking about online STAR testing and our kids needing to be able to manipulate and know how to do things on that test, that one-to-one is really important so that those kids have that access to it. So that's one of our goals as well. And then also just making sure, and you know, Keegan alluded to, having that collaborative planning time with our teachers, making sure that they feel like they're on the same page and that they're supported in you know, what they're needing to do. And then you know, one of our last things is also our English learners, our EL learners, you know, they are having to do other testing in regards to TELPAS. And so one of the things that we need to make sure of is they use headsets and they have to talk into it, because there are 4 areas that are being tested in TELPAS. So we're talking reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And so our kids they have these headphones and they have this thing and they have to talk into it. And a lot of our kids, you know, like maybe they don't want to put 100% in, or maybe they're just like feeling like not confident doing this. And so this is something else, another way that we can try and reinforce their confidence in building, so that we can show more growth in that area.
And this is the year everything's technology.
Well,
STAR.
Yes, we're going straight online.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So that's where we are.
Sounds good.
Yes. Thank y'all.
When is your fall festival?
Fall festival is this Thursday,
This Thursday?
5:30 to 7:30.
Okay, I thought it was next week.
Am I wrong? Is it Halloween? It's Halloween. It's the
Okay.
week before
The
Halloween. So
Halloween.
Halloween is on the
Okay.
31st.
Yes.
It's on that Thursday.
Okay,
27th.
Is there an elementary one also?
thank you.
We're doing a fall family night the Thursday before Thanksgiving. We're doing
Okay.
a literacy thing.
Okay.
Ours is next Tuesday.
Yours is when?
Tuesday.
Okay.
Ours is tomorrow.
So we can go one every night.
We can get a fall festival all over town.
Right.
Tomorrow, y'all are ready. Wow, it's here.
Oh yeah, it's here. We're ready. We're gonna make it. Okay, so junior high's big goals are overall safety, attendance, and then the curriculum. We'll begin with safety. So we have given all the mandates that came down from the state, some of the changes that we made around the campus that y'all are actually probably approved, and the fencing towards the back half of the campus to kind of close the portables because we have students coming and going between the portables and the new gym. We've also installed the doorbell into the new gym locker rooms. So, and I don't know if you've heard it, it is loud. We'll be in the middle of a volleyball game and some kid will want to come in through the back, and so some kid goes running and lets them in. We also installed another doorbell and a camera at those back doors that are by the old gym, those glass doors right there. So when kids come and go between the portables and they're trying to get to classes, we're able to see and buzz them in, so we have eyes on who it is.
held there. We have a lot of movement with the junior high, moving kids back and forth all but 2 periods a day. We have kids going over to the high school. We have 5th period, we have everybody on campus, and 6th period, and that is it. We have large groups of junior high kids headed to the high school every day. So one of the things is we're always checking doors, making sure no one got out a side door. We have staff assigned to regularly check the doors different periods, times of the day. We actually rearranged our entire duty schedule to include there is a person that actually stands during transitions and monitors the doors at the back in particular. Whether it's arrival or coming back and forth from the high school, 1 point of entry and 1 exit. They all go through the front to go to the high school, and they all come back through the front. Kids are not a big fan, especially in rain, but we tell them, you'll be fine. You'll live through it. Keep on going, get to class, and we wipe up behind them if it's wet a little bit on the floor. The other thing that we've made a big deal with the kids is the student ID badge. So we've emphasized this a lot, how important it is to, if they see somebody without an ID, an adult or a student, that they need to get an adult right away. We don't ask them to encounter anybody, we ask them to come get an adult. To make a point with it, what we've done is we actually do random student ID badge checks. And so we'll go in with a tray of cookies, and we'll go to a class and we'll say, okay, if everybody in the class has their actually district issued student ID on, not a temporary one because I forgot it, but actually has it on and you're wearing it appropriately, not in our backpack, then you get this tray of cookies. I'll tell you what, if you're that one kid that didn't have their ID badge, the whole class is all like, we could have had those cookies, and I'm so sorry. So, whatever it takes, right, to get them to wear those student ID badges, but that's how important it is, and it's paying off. We have teachers and students getting people when someone happens to get past the front office without a badge, including certain board members that got past the front office without a badge, and he got stopped. We're doing it. We're doing our job, so keeping them safe. The last thing is about safety is that we've been practicing our drills, but we're using it more of a teachable moment. There's a lot of conversation around it, not going through the motions of do our drill, check it off, move on to the next month. We're actually discussing with the kids and getting on the PA and then pulling them into our primetime assemblies on Mondays and discussing what went well, what didn't go well, why we have to take it seriously. We've really emphasized with the kids that this is not an adult issue, this is a junior high community issue. Our safety depends on all of us working together and taking it seriously. So I feel like we've made some good progress there. Attendance, so we have increased enrollment, which our small little campus is learning to really, those bathrooms are a little squinchy, but that's okay. We're doing all right with that. We're at, I think, 427, 430, somewhere in that, which is pretty darn high for junior high. It's the highest it's been for a while. But in terms of enrollment, for actual perfect attendance, what we're doing is every 3 weeks is that we're pulling a students who had a perfect attendance in those 3 weeks, a boy and a girl, out of a drawing, and they get those, those big bags of Skittles that, just has the zip tie. It's not like one of those little share bags. It's like one of the, like it's all in, right? That is like a bag of gold to these kids, and we'll just give them one of those and they just walk out and they just think they've struck rich, So who knew Skittles could do so much to improve attendance, but that's what we're doing every 3 weeks. That we also have the expectation with teachers that if a kid is absent 2 days in a row, that they need to make a phone call or email or remind, and some form of contact with the parent and the student of where are you? We miss you. We need to get you here. Get back on campus, okay? Where you belong, because it's not the same without you. Kids like to know that they're missed, and they like to, especially this age group. Developmentally, it's all about them. They like to know they're missed, and they like to know that that's, somebody wants them back. So, the last big thing, of course, is our curriculum. We've made some really good progress and with our writing overall. We've made some big strides, but we're continuing to have to refine and revisit based on our data what we need to do next.
So that as a whole, the campus has done a really good job of creating unit plans. But now our challenge is to, okay, based on our data, how do we go back? How do we refine it? Are we still meeting our kids and the targets that we need to meet in order to get the kids where they need to be? So the teachers are doing a good job. They took a lot of the training that they learned this past summer in our PLC training, and they brought it back. Our campus bought all in. I mean, the teachers have been fantastic. We give them Mondays. Every Monday, the teachers get an additional 25 minutes of planning. During that time, they take their most recent data, divide up, okay, here's our targeted skills that we need to do, here's who's performing where, and it's really all of our kids. Nobody is just hanging out. Health teachers are providing study halls for science classes. Texas history teachers are providing study halls for U.S. history classes and, targeting those TEKs. So everybody's all in. We don't have any like free time or fun time. Kids are not loving that, I'm not going to lie, but everybody's working during our prime time, which is their win time. What the three campuses are kind of referring to as win time. Everybody's working because we all have work to do. And then, like I said, we just keep going back and revisiting our units and making sure that we're hitting our marks every time we get another assessment. So those are our big areas that we're focusing on right now.
Can I ask,
yes.
What is your percentage of attendance this year?
We've had a couple 94s, but for the most part, we've been hanging around the 95, 96.
Is that better than last year?
Yeah, a little bit better, and I wish it was a little more better, even better than that, but just maybe a percentage point or two. But the lowest we've hit so far is 94. I'll tell you, at first our formula was off, and we looked like we were just a bunch of deadbeats not coming to school. And everybody's like got these good, percentages, and I'm like, we're all here. I see these, the classrooms are full. And then we found out the formula was wrong, and all of a sudden our attendance went right back up, and I was like, okay, so.
The junior high attendance has been good.
Yeah.
I have another question. I like the idea of that fence, but could it be higher? Because anybody can climb. It's a great idea, don't get me wrong. But if you were, you could climb that fence just like that.
Yes.
And I know they did what they could.
Yes.
I just don't know, just because when I was checking, I'm like, this fence is really...
It's 6 feet.
So I don't know if it could be raised just a tad higher. I don't know. That's just me. And I was checking to do it, and I just forgot my badge. And I really respected him. He thought he was being mean, and he really wasn't.
No.
He was really just doing his job.
Yeah.
And I told him I appreciate him, and my bad. Hey.
They're doing a good job. I mean, a couple subs have been chased down the hallway where they hadn't quite, put the little badge on the right spot, and I was like, no, they're allowed to be here, So I mean, but whatever it takes to keep us safe, right?
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Susie.
Hi, y'all. Basically, we have two things, and we're going to have a safe campus, and then we're going to learn. We're going to learn the 3 R's, and we're going to learn how to be productive community members once we graduate. So safety is obviously everyone's initiative. At the high school campus, we did goal 1 with safety, discipline, and attendance. Those are all tied to behaviors that we wanted to address, and a lot of it's culture changing reform, basically. And so it's taken a lot of time, just like all the other campuses. We do Tuesdays after school for attendance. That's been successful for us, doing it routinely and doing it every single week. So we do that from 4 p.m. to about 6 o'clock every Tuesday that we have school, and that's ran by the administrators. Next thing is wearing your ID badges, and again, that was student education and staff education. We had over 38 entrances and exits at the high school at the beginning of the year. We've narrowed those down to 3 main entrance and exit points. Again, biggest pushback was from staff. Yes, you have to walk an extra 20 feet to use this exit or entrance, but that's for the safety of all of us. And the next thing is, and I'm going to talk about this routinely, is our homeroom blocks. Our homeroom blocks, it's when it's prime time, we just call it homeroom at the high school. And that's part of the safety and culture building change, because it gives a chance for the teachers to see every single student. Doesn't matter if you're involved in athletics, doesn't matter if you're involved in fine arts and are plugged in, but specifically for those students that are not plugged in and are just assigned a homeroom class. You have a relationship with that teacher knows if there's something bothering you. They can also do a physical assessment. You can tell when people come in, or are you wearing pajamas? You know, your hair is disheveled, or is everything okay? So that provides them a checkpoint for those kids. Second goal was our student social and emotional learning that happens during homeroom blocks. And we're talking about things like stress management, test anxiety, but we're also talking about things that are more stressful, as in peer pressure, drinking underage. We also have guest speakers that come in during this time frame, and they do driving and drinking awareness. We have DPS come in. We just had the Attorney General's Office investigator come in last week. We also do college counselors and things like that that come in that are positive, but it's all about awareness, basically. And then the third thing is our learning in the academic core classes. We really formalized our RTI procedures for this year, and so during homeroom times, when they're in class, that's a time we can pull out kids and specialize on what they need and where they need some extra support during the school day. And then we're monitoring that with our data collections and things like that. And so everything I listed, we have a measuring point for it, so we can actually review it, and we do weekly as far as how are we doing. Is it working? Does it need to be tweaked? Is this worth our time? Is it not? And that's what our 3 main initiatives at the high school is.
You have a good attendance?
We have better than what we had last year. Good. Yeah, but we do have some really good detailed data reports that we're taking, and it's definitely open for discussion and, you know, to review and try to find some of those root causes that affects our attendance. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Well, as you can see, it's about being safe, coming to school and learning. And I think that goes to, I mean, Dr. Pollard said that for all of us, and the campuses have bought into it, and they're doing a great job with it. So it's my recommendation that you approve the district and campus improvement plans submitted for the 22-23 school year.
Do I hear a motion? Linda Maxwell, do I hear a second? Jimmy, any further discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you for your hard work. That's very impressive. That's great. Okay. National Incident Management Systems we did. MOU with Hidden Gem.
Good evening. So one of the things I did when I came into my new position was to look at the resources that Gatesville as a community had to offer, but also look at our county and surrounding areas. And so I was working with the counselors and social workers, and we put together a 14-page document that listed all of our resources that were available to our students, that anybody on campus could access. And so in working with that, we set up some MOUs. We have some with the attorneys here in town, but we also had, excuse me, a nonprofit come to us, Hidden Gems, and request to liaison with us so that we could work with them specifically and refer our students to them. Some of the areas that they cover are, they do GED, so they offer classes in the evenings. It's not only open to adults, it's open to the students as well. They do peer-on-peer group addiction programs. They have transitional housing. They're working on that piece. They're building more into that piece. So if they have abusive families, they have places to go where they can be removed. Domestic, emotional, cyber, and financial classes. They do assistance with food, clothing, utilities, and then they're still building more on those programs as well. So they are wanting to liaison with us for that. A good example of that and how we're using it are social workers when they're on campus. We've already referred many families to them through their food program, the pantry that they have, and the clothing. Also in our WINGS program, that's an area that I work with pretty regularly. I was listening to the kids and hearing them talk about, well, when I get out of school, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I started doing transition planning with them. And so some of the kids were, one in particular, she said, I don't know how to do my finances. I don't know how to pay bills. So they do financial classes. So when she finishes she works on her classes in the morning, and when she finishes, she's going to start going there to work on the financial part of it too. So we are working in cooperation with that, and we're helping students with their transitional goals as they go. So it's a win-win.
Who does the hidden gem?
Jenny Featherston.
Who subsidizes it? Like what teachers do they have that do the GED, and what kind, who teaches and what kind of
I don't know
faculties
the
do they have?
teacher that they have, Scott. I'm not sure which teacher that they have there.
Is it volunteer?
It's a volunteer that comes in. They also pull from different entities within the community, like for their financial services. They will, they'll pull from the banks, different areas of expertise. And so a lot of the people come in and volunteer their time for it.
Is it a religious organization?
It
Or
did
do
stem from
churches
the
help,
church.
or what is it?
They came out of a church. They're located on the square right by the courthouse, by Beltone, right there on that side. But they've built from being with their church. I mean, they still have the foundational beliefs, but they've just added to, and it's just grown into this big nonprofit that they are serving our community with. So, but they have quite a bit to offer. And, but with our students, they have even more to offer for us. We have a lot of kids that have substance abuse issues, that the court may order them classes that they have to attend, and so then they're trying to find classes, so they're a group that offer those services to each of our students and families. And it's not just students, it's our families too. There's many parents that go in and access it.
So it's regulated as far as what they teach and
Yes.
their materials and stuff?
They have to follow the different programming, but yes.
Do they have ESL there?
They do not have ESL that I'm aware of. That's a good question. I can find that out. But the individual who started this also used to do crime victims assistance. So she saw the need with the population she was working with, and just that at-risk population, and we have that same population here, so it's just it's a good combination to come together. But the transition planning is a big piece of it too, and
that's what you do. You're helping them.
I am helping with that. We're started it in the wings. We're looking at expanding it past that. We'd like to work towards our 7th graders on up having some type of transition planning, so that by the time they get through high school, they have those pieces. They have those extra pieces. Yes, we're getting them their education, but graduating from high school is so much more than that. So being ready to start off with what comes next.
So in a nutshell, what are you asking us to approve that Hidden Gems do with our students?
So my recommendation is to authorize Gatesville ISD to enter into an agreement with Hidden Gems so that our school-based and community resources can work together and serve our students and families.
Does anybody feel like we need to hear more from them before we vote on such a thing? Would you like to have Hidden Gems come here and tell us a little bit more?
I think so.
Or do you feel comfortable with the presentation as is?
I thought the presentation was good. I
Oh.
like what the here, but it can be anything. I would like to hear more from them. That's how I feel.
Do you feel?
But I'm okay with.
Y'all want to do? Do you feel comfortable enough passing it tonight, and then we just have them come next month, or do you want to go ahead and table it, and then we get them here next month and do it again?
I prefer to table and hear from them.
I agree.
I think it sounds wonderful, but just like to know a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I feel good about doing it if that's what y'all want.
I feel good about it. I just
didn't-
want to know more.
I've never heard of it. I mean, not that I hear everything, but.
Pam's not gonna hurt anything if we wait a few weeks to.
No, it'll be fine. We can wait. We can bring them
So there's
in.
nothing hanging in the balance. If we do it in the November meeting, we just do it.
Maybe just a little bit more about knowing who they are.
Okay. All right, I will get in contact
It
with
sounds
them
like an
over here.
area that's really needed.
You bet.
And I think it's
Absolutely.
wonderful. But I'd like to know a little bit too, I think.
Okay.
See if they can come out.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I will get in contact with her
Okay,
and
so
we'll
we'll
have
just
her
wait
here
on
for the
that.
next meeting.
Do we need to vote to wait on it?
I think so. We didn't do that last time.
All right, we have
So
a
maybe we can make
motion
the
to
table it.
accept the a relationship with community relations, and our motion is going to table that.
Yes.
So who wants to make the motion to table it? And then somebody
Who wants
needs
to
I
say
will
it?
make the motion to take it.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, the motion to table has been seconded. All in favor? And that passes, and we'll hear from them maybe next month.
Yeah, I'll set that up.
Okay,
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
all right.
Thanks, Pam.
Otherwise, it sounds really good. Okay. All right,
Amendment to board policy, I believe is the next one.
that might be you.
FFAC local, yes, I think I've got the last three. So the first one is really an important topic. How many of y'all have heard of fentanyl? Have you heard of fentanyl? The deadly drug?
Yeah.
There's a catchphrase, one pill can kill. So it's the thing that if you've seen an episode of any sort of these law enforcement shows, if you even touch it, a police officer sometimes can get deathly ill and they have to be administered Narcan to bring them back to life. Drug addicts, if they're taking fentanyl and it's not chopped up just right, it can kill them instantly. And so it's a very dangerous drug, opioid. And so the reason we're bringing this up is we'd like to have, Dr. Winchell has approved a standing order to our local pharmacy to have Narcan at each campus. So just in case if some sort of pill came here and a student was to have ingested or come to school and they're disoriented and they passed out and we think that they're having some sort of drug overdose, it would be very good to have something like that on hand, because it's better to have it and not need it than vice versa. So our lawyer developed this next page here. It's board policy about two things. One, he said while you're doing the Narcan, you might as well also include EpiPens. So right now, a lot of our students that could go into anaphylactic shock have their own EpiPen, but we would just have, the school district, each campus would have just our own, just in case someone started to go into a shock and we needed to give that to them as well. And so Zach, our lawyer, looked through other policies and developed this for us. He said that school districts have a wide range of immunity. Like if you had to administer something like this, as long as you're doing it in good faith, you're protected legally. And so Dr. Winchell thought it was a good idea. Our nursing staff thought it was a good idea. And Marie, she developed a really nice presentation about the dangers of fentanyl that she presented to the high school. And every campus is going to talk to it. October is Drug Awareness Month. Red Ribbon Week is coming up, and so that fits nicely. But we want to make sure that kids know, even the little ones, don't put stuff in your mouth. that you don't know what it is. And these drug operations make pills that are brightly colored, looks like candy. Oh, this looks like something good, and it can kill something. So my recommendation is that the board approve this amendment to FFAC local with the proposed attached language that Tyler has approved. He's developed and written it, our lawyer. And so to me, it's pretty much a win-win situation to have this on hand.
Do I hear a motion? Jimmy, second. Charles. Any other discussion? All in favor? Got it.
All right. Somewhat connected to that is just another status update on our GISD Police Department. And so last month I said we'd gotten the inspection. She gave us a few things to work on. And in the meantime, since the last meeting, we got our letter approving the GISD Police Department. Since then, we swore in Officer Stiles as Chief of Police. And so we've been making good progress on that. And he's working on all the necessary paperwork to get the other 4 officers over under our umbrella, and so it's all been working very smoothly. And in fact, I think our 4 officers have now, the others have submitted their 2-week notices to the GPD, and so they're about to make the switch, and we'll have all 5 as GISD employees. T-Cole did ask us to change one section of our policies, change the wording from part-time officers to special or reserve police officers. It's just kind of a technicality, but they didn't make any other substantive changes. As a reminder, our lawyer had approved all those already in addition. The other thing that she said was that on our evidence room, she wanted a wooden ceiling. No tiles, wooden, because they didn't want somebody to be able to crawl in and over and to get to it. So Toby has already put in the wooden ceiling, and we've revised our policy. So we did the 2 things that she was wanting us to take care of. So I would recommend that the board approve the revised policy, basically switching that word part-time to special or reserve officers.
Yeah, question.
Yeah, Kevin.
Since they're gonna switch over, I know you talked about cars or vehicles.
Mhm.
Have they been able to purchase a vehicle?
Not yet. We're looking into different areas. We've been looking at some different things, but one group of cars that we looked at, the transmissions were shot, and we didn't want to invest in something that's going to be so crummy that you're just going to be buying something again. Shane's got a little bit of money in CTE that we could allocate towards buying a couple of vehicles, and so we just want to make sure that what we get is, we're good with it being used, but we want to make sure that it's not so used it's worthless. So.
Anybody else have questions? Do I hear a motion to approve that change? Charles?
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor? Okay. Board meeting date to conduct official local canvass of returns for elections.
Well, every election cycle, we set a date to conduct the official local canvass. And the earliest date the official canvass can be done is Friday, November 11th. The last day for the official canvass is Tuesday, November 22nd. And just as a reminder, in these special meetings, 2 members constitute a quorum. And so what we have done for years under the Open Meetings Act, you can't conduct any other school business that meeting, but what we have done is we've had a special meeting 15 minutes before the regular meeting in November. So my recommendation was to have the special meeting to conduct the official local canvass on Monday, November 14th at 5:15, 15 minutes prior to the regular board meeting. And again, we only need 2 of you, but more are welcome.
Do I have a motion to accept that date? Linda says yes. Do I have another? Jimmy, and any discussion? All in favor? All right, we can have it. Executive session, we're dismissed at 7:24.
Thank you, guys.